Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
So I have a great author to talk to you about. You've heard her before, quite a while, but we did feature her in April of 2016 because she wrote 2 books. She actually is calling in from Hawaii. She lives in an island called Kauai, Kauai, and Kauai, right? Right, Kauai, and she is really good with people. She knows how to talk to people. So her whole book is about all these interesting people she met. Now she's not from this island. She's from another place, but she's lived there. I think, haven't you lived there over 40 years?
Now 29 years.
Oh, 29, right. So you really are, for all intents and purposes. You're one of them.
Now, yeah, definitely. It's in my blood, sure.
Right. So and we call this book a book of magic because every page is fun. It's true. That's the nice thing. And Pamela is Varma Brown. That's her whole name. She's very good at taking what people say and putting it into something that's so interesting. It's very compelling. You have to just keep reading the book, and I certainly enjoyed it. And the other thing is there's always not in everyone, but there are a lot of recipes. And the one recipe that I loved, and I have to tell you this, I don't do the chili pepper because it's too hot for me. And I don't, of course, have any Kauai lava rock. But the Kauai chicken soup recipe has everything I like. The carrots, the onion, the celery, the bay leaf, and the chicken. And that's what I make. And I think I also put a little barley in it because my mother always put barley in our soups. But
mine did too. I wonder if that was the era.
Yeah, maybe it was. And barley's good for you. And it's so I use that every once in a while. I throw a few lima beans in. But so that's something that I've used, and I just want you to know that. And that's what you do, don't you? Like the banana bread. That's another story that, of course, you may want to. Maybe people don't remember. Why don't you tell us the story of the banana bread?
Sure. Well, I'll just give a quickie overview. I have 2 books about Kauai. One is Kauai Stories 1, one's Kauai Stories 2, and each one is a collection of about 50 people's personal stories about life on the island. So while they are mini biographies, they're also, when taken together, they make a mosaic of life on this small island. And the state of Hawaii is pretty small. We only have maybe 1.5 million population for the whole state. The state is a series of islands. Kauai is the smallest of the 4 main, I would guess you would say, touristy islands. We're not terribly touristy, so that was kind of a poor choice of words. But so we only have about 65,000 population on our island. What's always fascinating to me is the variety of people who live here, not only ethnically speaking, culture, but the people's interests and accomplishments. They run the gamut, from people who've been born and raised here to people like me who've moved here and made this place their home. And another hallmark of the Hawaiian Islands in general, and especially of the island of Kauai, is that people are extraordinarily warm and friendly. If you're a friendly person, you will meet friendly people everywhere you go, no matter what city, state, or country you're in. But my experience has been on Kauai, the percentage of warm, friendly people is much higher, and the context doesn't matter. It's not they're only friendly at church or they're only friendly in Costco. People are friendly everywhere all the time because that's the kind of person that Kauai attracts and holds on to.
Do you think it's because of the flowers?
Honestly, I think it's because of everything. I think from my perspective, there are 2 main reasons. One is the host culture of Hawaiians. The Hawaiian culture is warm and loving and peaceful. So even though I'm a Caucasian woman who was born and raised in L.A., I've been here on Kauai a long time, but Hawaii is not my heritage. Actually, as a matter of fact, my father's from India. But that sense of lovingness, and, or as we would say in Hawaii, that spirit of aloha, which is love and respect and caring for one another, and taking the time to really appreciate another person or another things on your planet like the flowers. That spirit of aloha underlies everything we say or do and everything we are here in Hawaii. And you can feel that even if you weren't born and raised here.
Well,
so I think, and then when you take that sense of aloha that comes from the host culture, and then you combine that with the islands being small, there certainly is development. We live in regular houses. We're not in grass huts, and we have electricity and running water and things like that. Our homes look like, pretty much like you would find anywhere else within the country. But we are much closer to nature here. So I can be driving to Costco and I'm passing the ocean, and we have our main highway on Kauai is one lane each direction, so I can see the ocean, I can see the sunrise, I can see the moonrise. We have trees and flowers everywhere. We have gentle trade winds, which are soft breezes blowing most of the time. I feel like when you're that much more connected with nature, you're just naturally a calmer, happier, more pleasant person.
Pamela, I think you should probably write songs because your lyrics are so good.
Well, it's my love for these islands.
Is it inexpensive to live there?
No, it's pretty expensive.
Is
here.
it? Even on that island?
Yeah, the biggest thing is housing is expensive. It's law of supply and demand, and also the cost of getting goods and materials to the islands. They have to be shipped. We don't have forest industries to create enough lumber to build homes, so all that has to be shipped in. Cost of living is kind of high here. But there are some things, they're trade-offs. They're trade-offs. So, for example, if I want to take a wonderful hike, I can either go right outside my door, and I might be walking on paved streets, but the vegetation is beautiful, the landscape's beautiful. I can look up on mountains and see waterfalls. Or I can drive, 2 to 4 miles and be at a hiking trail that's, a dirt path that's going up the mountains. Whereas on the mainland, as Hawaii and Alaska people call the continental U.S., you certainly can go to wilderness areas. But if you're living in a city, you might have to take the weekend off and go to a national park. And that's wonderful, too. But we just get to be a lot more in touch with it.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. And you, though, have really found a life for yourself. When you first went there, what did you go there as? Just to live there, or did you go as a writer?
I first came on vacation with my then husband, and we knew basically nothing about Hawaii and even less about the island of Kauai. And once we got here, we were on Kauai for 4 days. We loved it so much. We looked around and thought, oh, my gosh, if we could get work, why wouldn't we live here? So on our fourth and last day on the island on that vacation, we actually went on job interviews and had employers tell us, if you have a marketable skill, you'll do fine. That said, it is expensive. If your marketable skill is, a clerk in a fast food restaurant, it's going to be a little challenging to make ends meet here. But so we we came home after the 4 days on Kauai. We told our families we were thinking of going. They were pretty excited. We thought if they completely freaked out, we wouldn't leave. Yet, by the same token, we wanted to live our own lives for ourselves. So 5 weeks later, we were here, and I was here for good. He was here with me here for 17 years, and then he moved back, and we split up. But and now I have the most wonderful partner who came here on his own, sight unseen, met me about 9 months after he'd been here. He was already in love with the island, met me, decided he liked me, and
he fell in love with you, and then he had everything.
Now he's got to stay.
Okay, so now tell us about the banana bread.
Oh, sorry, I forgot about that. There's so many stories here on Hawaii. So we have some banana trees in our front yard, and my partner Lincoln tends to them. And one day he cut down a stalk of bananas, and there was almost 200 bananas on that stalk. It was incredible. even though people say, well, freeze some for your own use, we're not going to freeze 150 bananas for ourselves. We need to eat other things. So he split that stock into smaller bunches, and we started giving them away. And the way he did that is he put them in a big cardboard box, put them at the end of our driveway so people driving by could see, and there was a sign that said free. All day long, we watched people drive up, see the free sign, pick up bananas, and go on their way. At the end of the day, we still had a handful of bunches of bananas left. So Lincoln said, I'm going to put them out at night in case anybody working the night shift drives by and sees them. And I thought, wow, what a thoughtful guy. He and I were still pretty new together at the time, and I thought, boy, that's really thoughtful, because when he came here, he was working a job where he got off work at 11 p.m. He'd been self-employed on the mainland, did whatever he had to do to get over here and get work, and that was working at a rental car agency. He got off at 11 p.m. So he's really in tune with people who have to work at night. And I thought, well, that's really thoughtful. I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll see. So the next morning, the bananas were gone. The following morning, in our newspaper receptacle where the newspaper carriers deliver our daily newspaper, was a Ziploc bag with 6 perfectly formed mini loaves of banana bread and a note saying, thank you for the bananas you shared last night. Here's banana bread we made with them. And this was signed from your newspaper carriers. Now, we had never met these people. As a matter of fact, we'd never seen them because they used to deliver papers at about 4 in the morning. It was totally dark at that hour. We're fast asleep in another part of the house, nowhere near the newspaper receptacle. So that began a conversation in which we would leave notes for them and they would leave notes for us in the newspaper receptacle. And eventually we met them, and now we're good friends. And so that was probably, must have been in 2011 that started. And they continue to give us banana bread in exchange for bananas. And we just got our most recent loaf last week, or a set of loaves.
And it's good, isn't it?
She's such a great cook. Yeah. And it's interesting, too, this couple who delivers the papers, they are in their 80s now. Are they 70s? 80s. I think one just turned 80, the other's in low 70s. And they've been delivering papers for like 20 years. They're super friendly. People leave them fruit and notes and flowers, and they sometimes distribute the excess that they get that they can't use for themselves to other people along their route. So sometimes they'll leave us oranges or avocados, depending on what fruit is going off on the trees here that time of year.
Well, I know that bananas are very, very healthy. So that's really good.
They are. They're extremely healthy.
Right.
We're so fortunate in the islands in that people share their fruit. Our trees are very abundant, and people share. We certainly have farmers who sell them, but other people like us, stuff that's growing in your yard, you can't always eat all of it. So it's very gratifying to be able to give it away to people who don't have their own fruit trees.
Yeah, it is. Well, I want to get back to your book because I really would hope, if you're looking for some books that will just bring a smile to your face, and it's a different kind of a culture, so that's good. But they're so beautiful. They're such great human beings that Pamela Varma Brown really found. She has there are 2 books, so we reviewed both of them.
Actually, what happened was after I published my second book, I realized, I'm going to just start my own publishing house. So I have my own publishing house now. It's small yet. It's not going to remain small, but, everything, well, maybe not everything, but many good things start small. It's called Right Path, which is WRITE, Right Path. And so far I've published 4 books. I should have 2 more out.
For other people?
Yeah, I'm doing 2 for clients this year, and those will be. And so if anybody wants to see the books, they're at rightpath.net on the internet. And so far, all 4 of my books are within my forte, which is writing about people. So Kauai Stories 1 and Kauai Stories 2, those are each 50 stories apiece of people's lives. And what I like about those stories, too, is they definitely give you a flavor for life on Kauai. but they are also stories of people who have found their passion in one way or another. It could be a large aspect of their life. It could be a small aspect of their life. But they're illustrations of what happens when you follow your joy. So all the stories, not to say people haven't had hardships, and some of the people who I write about have had hardships and they've come through. And they've come through with their positive spirit intact. And to me, I find that very inspiring. And also what I like is that there's such a variety of these types of experiences and stories on our small island. They're representative of what we find across the country and throughout the world. I just happen to have them at my fingertips here on Kauai. And then you get to throw that in with all the cultural mix that we have in Hawaii.
Well, I was annoyed with the way Trump treated Hawaii, frankly. I thought that was a joke.
Yeah, Hawaiians were a little defiant about that.
I thought so. I thought of you when that happened. I thought, the nerve.
You know, it's interesting. That's funny you'd bring that up, because that is one of the aspects of living in Hawaii as a whole, but especially on Kauai, which is one of the smaller islands, and we are spaced farther apart from the other islands. You know, the other islands are closer to each other than Kauai is. We're set kind of apart physically, or I should say geographically. There's quite a sense of independence out here. You know, you can't just drive somewhere to get something solved. You can't drive off the island. There, you know, unlike some places, I think, like, there's no bridges between the islands. You either have to take a boat or you take a plane. So as a result, people learn to become extraordinarily resourceful. And they also learn to rely on one another, which is a beautiful thing. It doesn't mean they use each other as a crutch. It means they, I was going to say reverted to, but maybe in Hawaii we've never moved beyond realizing that our neighbors are our friends and they can help us and we can help them. And that's why there's more than one of us on the planet, is to support each other.
Right.
And it's very natural and also necessary for us to do that in the islands.
Mm-hmm. Right. That's a good point. Well,
and it creates such beautiful bonds and strong friendships. You know, whether you're helping somebody move a couch up to the third floor of an apartment building, or you know, or you're helping them repair a vehicle, or you're just sharing bananas with them. It doesn't. There's no any one kind of support that is appropriate. It's whatever you can do, whatever you can offer to people. You know, and it can be something easy, but it can make a real difference in somebody else's life.
I get the feeling that once someone moves there, they don't move away.
You know, that's a fabulous question, because the answer is yes and no. There is a saying about Kauai that the island either embraces you or it spits you out. Now, spits you out's a little bit of more of a violent metaphor than I prefer, but it's true. If someone is meant to be on Kauai or anywhere in the islands, they are embraced, both literally and figuratively speaking. Things will fall into place for them. And what I find is it's more of a mindset than anything. And I feel like this is what I'm about to say is a good lesson for anybody anywhere, not just people who come to Hawaii. We all have our own skills and our own set of talents and the knowledge that we've each accumulated. And it's quite substantial in most of our cases, yet none of us knows everything, and none of us knows the only way to do things. So if you come to a new place, whether it's a small island or whether it's Florida or New York City, and you look around first before you open your mouth and look and see how people are doing things before you tell others how things should be done, you're going to be accepted a lot more. That's not to say you have to do what the locals are doing. Maybe the locals are doing something that could be improved upon. Or maybe there's a reason that things have been done a certain way for so long, and as a newcomer, you just don't know what they are yet. So that's very, very true in Hawaii, because there are a lot of things that are different here, and for very good reasons. And then there are things that can be improved upon, just like everywhere. So a perfect example sounds like a minor example, but it's widespread throughout the Hawaiian Islands. It's very humid here, and you're probably familiar with that in Florida.
Right.
However, in Hawaii, in our homes, most of us don't have air conditioning. So whatever it's like outside, pretty much like that indoors. As a result, salt shakers have to be kept in the refrigerator. Otherwise, the salt turns to water. For example, if I'm salting some food and some salt flies outside of my bowl and lands on the kitchen counter, within a couple hours when I come back to the kitchen counter, if I haven't wiped up that salt, instead of grains of salt, I have droplets of water, salty water. That's because of the humidity in the air. So, and also, alternately, what sometimes people will do is put grains of rice in the salt shakers.
Right.
We found it's most effective just to keep it in the fridge because otherwise the salt sometimes will start clogging up the salt holes. But so, a newcomer might think we're a little insane for having salt and also bread in the refrigerator, but I don't like watery salt and I don't want moldy bread, so we keep it in the fridge. There are reasons those things are done, even though that's not what's done in other places in the country, but things are different here, just as they are in every locale.
So, Pamela, what's your temperature there generally?
I'd say we average about 77.
But does it ever get cold? I mean, you have winters, don't you?
We do have winters. We have 4 seasons, but as I tell people, they're a lot more subtle here, and which a lot of us really appreciate. My boyfriend, for example, he's from Minnesota originally, and I think it was last winter or the winter before, it was last winter, we had a minus 20 degrees day. Most people who come here from those kind of climates don't miss, quote-unquote, real winter, just as most people in Florida are not missing snow. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, our winters are typically December, January, and part of February, and sometimes we get temperatures as cold as 50, which doesn't sound too chilly until you remember that we don't have heaters in our houses, no air conditioning, no heating. So it's 50 outside, it's 50 inside, and that's a little chilly. Most people don't keep their thermostats at 50 across the mainland. So we'll be running around in sweaters and sweatshirts in the house. And in the winter, we actually wear socks, which is a little unusual for the rest of the year.
Right.
But it's a pleasant winter. I'll walk around and we might have a day of, 61 degrees, and I'll walk around and say, this is my kind of winter.
Right. So I think that I get the feeling that bikes are the mode of transportation there.
On Kauai, we do bike a lot, but more for recreation. On Kauai, the way the road system is set up, it's far more convenient and just much, much more functional to do things with cars. Mm-hmm. We have one highway that goes around the island. It rings the island. It's one lane each way for the most part.
Oh, my gosh.
There's a couple places we have a few more lanes, and there's a few places we could use a couple more lanes. It's just been a little bit slow go getting those extra lanes built because we get state funding, but because we're such a small island, we get a small percentage of the funding, and the cost per mile of state highways here is pretty expensive. So that's a little slow go, and it's kind of a double-edged sword in that, it gives us a little bit more traffic than we might enjoy, yet it keeps the rural small town feel, which most of us really enjoy.
Sure.
We live on a small island so that we aren't in a very heavy urban environment. We don't want an urban environment. So
I think that's I understand that. So I guess my other idea or thought of, if someone comes here though, you have hotels, you have a hospital, do you have?
Oh yeah. We actually, our hospital here is award-winning.
Huh?
We have two hospitals here. Both are fabulous. One's out on the west side of the island. One's in Lihue, which is our county government, seat of government. We've got tons of hotels, lots of rental condos, and lots of homes that are for rent, too. So for people who like to cook or have their own food and intersperse that with going out to restaurants while on vacation, staying in condos and rental homes is a super comfortable way. And there's tons and tons of hotel rooms. We have 3 Marriotts and a Westin, and the hotels are really beautiful. And some of them are actually, the majority of them are oceanfront, which is very pleasant. And there are all kinds of oceanfront condos and homes as well. Mm-hmm. Something for everyone.
Right. And so you have really found the place of your life, and that's great. So would you call yourself then, you're really a writer, that's what you're taking your time to do, and now that you're a publisher also, you're publishing other people's books, and now hopefully you're going to have a radio show, which will be good. I don't know how you make money on that, but...
Fortunately, that doesn't have to be my department, the money part.
Right.
They talked to me about that a couple years ago, this particular station, and they said, you have to go in and get sponsors. And I said,
Right.
if I'm running around getting sponsors, I can't write books. Writing is a time-consuming process
Exactly.
to do it well.
Exactly.
You can whip something out, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what you want. That's the form you want it to go out in the world in.
Right.
Especially for me, I'm writing about people. I want them to be represented as beautifully as I see them.
Yes.
And that takes time to make your words and sentences represent what you feel. So, but now we're putting together something called the Kauai Stories Radio Hour, and my goal is to have that available. With technology these days, things can stream on the internet, so and turn it into a podcast so people can get it anywhere. And my goal is to be interviewing all kinds of Kauai people.
Good.
So there'll be people, Hawaiians, and we'll get the cultural feel, but we'll also get a mix of all the different kinds of people who are here. There's a woman who has moved.
You know what? I'm going to have to cut you off. I'm afraid that we've just about run out of time.
Oh, my goodness.
But let me just tell everybody the way that you can get in touch with, of course, Pamela, is she is on the web with Kauai Stories at KAUAI stories.net, or you can go to her new publishing house, which is website is WRITE path.net. You can actually get her 2 books. You're going to love them. I still enjoy them. Every once in a while, I open the book and read something that maybe I didn't remember I read. But thank you so much, Pamela, and I still hope that someday I'm going to come there and see you.
Come on out. We'll find a beautiful place for you to stay.
You'll
enjoy
it.
It.
Yeah, thank you so much, and good luck with your stuff. Okay, bye, Pamela.
Aloha.